Peace, brother Chauncey. How you doing? Peace, peace, peace. Peace and power elevation be to all you beautiful people out there. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something that's very important, something that is affecting our people's education. And there's been many crises that's been going on centered around HBCUs. And one of those crises is the whole Biden administration cut back funds from $45 billion to $2 billion. That part. And the other part is Clark Atlanta and Howard University. They are dealing with some serious crisis right now. The main issue that's going on with these colleges is the living condition. So with Howard University, students outside doing protesting about the mold, the rats and roaches in certain facilities of the campus. And they want to make it known like, hey, this is a crisis here and this needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. Same with Clark Atlanta. Now, why is it that all these other private colleges or these other universities that are non-HBCUs, they can get federal funding, but not the Black colleges? Because $2 billion is not enough for 101 HBCUs in America. It's not enough. They're going to need more than just that, especially when it comes to renovation. But anyways, let me go ahead and get to the article. Hey, Too Smooth, how you doing? Hey, brother Chauncey, how you doing? Thank y'all for coming through. But let's get to the article real fast. All right, so hopefully you guys can see it. Now, this comes from BET.com. It says HBCU's funding slashed from $45 billion to just $2 billion in latest version of Biden's spending plan. Democrats in fighting is blamed for the reduction to Biden's promise to fund Black institutions. It says the struggle to alleviate the funding crisis at some historically Black colleges and universities could be more of an uphill battle than expected. HBCUs were hoping that the Biden administration would deliver $45 billion in financial support, but Democratic infighting could reduce that figure to just $2 billion in Biden's spending plan, the Associated Press reports. The $35 trillion spending bill included $45 billion for HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions. However, Democrats disagree about the size of the economic package and where the money should go, according to the AP. The latest version of the bill allocates $2 billion for educational programs and infrastructure at HBCUs, which could be reduced to competitive grants instead of direct funding. All right. Then it goes on to say Roderick L. Smothers, president of Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas, a private HBCU, hoped to receive funding from the president's original package to expand programs for his students. More than 80% of them come from low-income families. He envisioned launching a public health school to train students to help reduce health disparities in the Black community and to help alleviate the state's nursing shortage. So let's stop right there. Why all of a sudden, why out of everything, why cut the funding for Black colleges? What made the Biden administration decide that they want to take away funding for the HBCUs, knowing that they're not really getting a lot of public support anyhow? And most of the kids that go to these universities, they come from low-income family. So that means that they cannot afford to pay for college tuition. So now it makes it harder for these schools to stay open. It's already bad enough that some of them lost accreditation. Some of them were closed altogether because they could not keep the enrollments going. And now you got this situation. So it's a battle. It's a battle to figure out, well, are we gonna stay longer? Are we gonna open much longer? Or are we gonna have to close? Is this the final deal? What did Biden do? Did Biden trick the people into believing that he was really going to fulfill what he promised? Well, that's so much for Black Lives Matter. Does Black lives really matter? Because if it did, what about the education? How come you got enough budget and funding to support all these non-HBCUs and community colleges, but not have some money for the Blacks? So this is why when they did this whole kneeling down, they had on the kente cloth and all this stuff, that was a joke to me. Because it was a way to just win the emotions of Black people. But at the end of the day, it's not really doing anything. And what does Kamala Harris has to say all this? After all, she is alumni from Howard University. What is her thought on this? What is she saying about this? That's what I would like to know. Because Howard is dealing with some serious crisis. What is her thought on it? What is her thoughts? How does she feel about it? Is she doing anything to convince the Biden administration that there's money that needs to go to these schools as soon as possible to keep them open and to keep them functioning? Does Black lives really matter to this government? Does it really matter to the federal government when it comes to education? That's what I would like to know. But this is what the people voted for. You voted for Biden. Now, I'm not saying Trump was the greatest because he wasn't, but at least Trump was willing. He was willing to put forth effort into this. Whereas Biden gave people a bunch of promises and did not fulfill those promises. And now it looks like a joke. So now, Black folks, y'all got to ask yourself, well, what the hell are we voting for? Who are we voting for? What's more important? Is it the Democrats or is their policy? Because if their political party is what's more important to you, then you have not examined or pay attention to the things that's taking place in the news right now as we speak. So you got to ask yourself, when it comes to voting, what is more important, the political party or the party's agenda? Because if the party does not have the agenda that suits the people, then the political party doesn't matter in itself. It doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean nothing to be a Democrat or a Republican or any other party if the political agenda is not aligning up with the people. Just like today, found out that Lil Nas X got a day. He got a Lil Nas X going on. And this was orchestrated by the Atlanta City Council. But what about the crises going on in the city? What about the homeless crisis, the crime infestation, drug infestation, the gentrification? What about all these things? What are you guys... My thing is, are these politicians putting more into celebrities or into public figures than putting focus on the people? I mean, what is more important here? And this is one of the reasons why people don't want to vote. Now, if you ever ask yourself, well, why is it that folks don't like to vote? This is why. Because a bunch of false promises that is unkept. And do you blame people for not voting? No, because you're not going to get what you're asking for or what you're demanding. You're not going to get it. You're going to get a bunch of false promises. And if you do get it, you'll be the last on the list to receive any type of help, recognition, etc. But let me go ahead and get back to the article. All right. It says Biden's original plan took into account that a legacy of discrimination that placed HBCUs at a competitive disadvantage in securing research funding, the Washington Post has noted. For decades, the federal government denied funding to HBCUs that it provided to predominantly white schools for infrastructure development and research. State lawmakers followed the same discriminatory pattern over the years. According to the AP, the cumulative endowment for all HBCUs was just over $3.9 billion in 2019. This is about the same as the University of Minnesota alone. All right, so that's it. That's all from this article, and this is coming from BET.com. Now, let's look at the crisis that's going on with Howard University. Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the article from Howard University. Students protest mold, rodents, in campus dorms. I have definitely been disappointed in my experience, say a freshman struggling with the Washington, D.C. campus living condition. Okay, and this comes from NBCnews.com. All right. Anyways, it says, while the expectation of, and this article came out on October 25th, 2020 by Maya Anglin and Dion J. Hampton. It says, while the expectation of the first year of college tends to be linked to independence and new opportunity, Chandler Robinson, a freshman at Howard University in Washington, D.C., said her expectations were much different than reality. I can't lie. I definitely have been disappointed in my experience, she said. Robinson is one of the many students at the top tier historically Black university who have been protesting the living condition and educational challenges on campus for weeks. Many students have reported to the university and shared on social media mold in the dorms, Wi-Fi connection problem, dining halls infestation with rats and roaches, and unresponsive administration. The mold problem began over the summer due to a flood on campus, Robinson told NBC News. Mold had since been identified in at least 38 dorm rooms out of 2,700 total rooms on campus, an official from Howard University confirmed to NBC News. Several videos about conditions at Howard have gone viral on social media. Robinson posted one talking about what life has been like on campus that's just shy of 1 million views on TikTok. Robinson wasn't able to connect to Wi-Fi for over a month and couldn't access Blackboard, a platform colleges use for assignment and grades. I can't say that I'm really being educated just because students are tired, and so is faculty. The faculty made it very clear that they are struggling also, she said. Being 5 weeks behind in my classes is very difficult. It's very difficult to catch up. In response to the issues on campus, students have occupied the Blackburn University Center for nearly 2 weeks. Then it goes on to say, students say they're prepared to protest for the remainder of the school year until mold is removed from dorms, water damage repaired, and expired air filters replaced. Everybody And here is pretty adamant on staying until our demands are met. Our demands are not demanding. They're very simple. I feel it's basic rights as a student based on the tuition we pay, say Jasmine Juoff, a 19-year-old sophomore. Students say they are also protesting for additional off-campus housing for upperclassmen and for a student affiliated to be re-added to the University Board of Trustees. The school is hurting its own reputation because this is a major issue, said Juoff, a sociology major. They're making themselves look bad. Juoff said her reason for demonstrating is personal as the mold in her dorm room gave her respiratory issues. There was a point when I thought I had COVID, she said. Howard University officials on Monday afternoon said living conditions on campus are being exaggerated. Oh, really? It's being exaggerated. But then they go on to say our housing isn't deplorable at all. It is nowhere near the way the students are portraying it. Howard University Vice President of Communication, Frank Trumbull, said in an interview with NBC News. That's interesting. Protesters say they have testimony from multiple resident advisors who contend the number is much higher and problems are worse. The university said in a statement last week that it was working with campus housing providers toward actively addressing the concerns our students have raised. While there have been a small number of document facilities report, we are actively inquiring about unreported issues that may be in the residence halls by going door to door to interview each resident. The statement said, additionally, members of the administration have also toured and inspected every residence hall on campus and are addressing any documented facility issues directly with our third-party housing managers. The results of our inquiries affirm that the issues are not widespread and the vast majority of our students are living comfortably in their rooms. All right. So I'm just going to stop right here. It's a lot more to this article, but let me stop over here. Howard University is very surprising because Howard University is one of the most popular HBCUs. And you would thought that it wouldn't be such a crisis like this. And I can see why the president tried to turn a blind eye and try to make it seem like it's not a big problem because they don't want a lot of media coverage. However, if students are complaining and one young lady say that she has respiratory issues, something got to be done as soon as possible, or somebody could possibly die. If they have respiratory issue and they living in dormitories full of mold and full of rats and roaches, that's going to create serious health crisis. So this is why I still ask the question, going back to Biden, why cut back on the $45 billion fund, knowing that these colleges are going to need it. They're going to need it because students are already complaining about their living condition right there at Howard University, and they're right there in Washington, D.C. So the White House is right there. Howard University is right in that perimeter. And you got students complaining about this. This should be something that should raise the red flag, and that should be brought to the attention of the Biden administration. This is the red flag here. Howard University is right there in Washington, D.C. Biden's administration in Washington, D.C. Why these issues cannot be addressed or can't be taken care of? And peace. Why it can't be taken care of? Again, and I just read back to the BET article that the University of Minnesota gets around about close to $2 billion. So if that's the case, how is that University of Minnesota can receive a lot more funding? What's going on? What's the issue? What's the issue of not helping the HBCUs? Now let's go to Clark Atlanta. All right. Here it goes. Here goes the article. So, right here, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Atlanta students protest for better housing and more funding for HBCUs. All right. So it says several dozen students from Atlanta's historically black colleges and universities began a protest Monday afternoon demanding improved student housing from administrators and that congressional elected officials from Georgia provide more funding for the schools and student loan debt relief. The students began the protest outside Rush Memorial Congregational Church at the Atlanta University, where HBCU students organized demonstration in 1960. The students said they will not leave until their demands are met by presidents of the schools and addressed by federal officials. The students have lists of 6 demands and want the presidents of Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Morris Brown, and Spelman to meet with students leaders to discuss a full assessment of housing needs and quality of life. They also want Georgia's 2 U.S. senators and others elected officials from the state to address the much needed $45 billion investment in HBCUs and other minority serving institutions through President Joe Biden's proposed infrastructure bill known as the Build Back Better Act. Students from Clark Atlanta University, along with Morehouse, Morris Brown, and Spelman colleges, are involved in the protest. Students post signs that read, "All students need housing, end the housing crisis, and tell old Joe raise the budget," referring to President Biden. "It's time to cash in on these promises. We must demand better together." Michaelis Kirkland, 22, a Morehouse College senior majoring in sociology. All right, so here's a little video clip right here. Let's see.
Who came before us, so they know that their work wasn't in vain. And we owe it to those that come after us, because they deserve to exist in a world where we didn't just sit by and do nothing, one where we built a better future. The days of simply hoping that tomorrow is brighter than today or yesterday is over. Or better yet, that day never really did exist. Regardless of what we've been conditioned to believe, we hold the power to create a future brighter not only than today, but brighter than anything we could have ever envisioned. We hold that power here today, but we hold it together.
All right. So there was a video clip from the protest at the Atlanta University Center. And it says the protest is in solidarity with ongoing demonstration at Howard University at HBCU in Washington, D.C. by students there demanding better housing conditions along with other students' representation issue. Howard University students say rats and mold are just some of the issues they're forced to live with there. And then the Atlanta students complain about washing machines and other equipment not working in their dorms. Clark Atlanta University had to put nearly 500 students in temporary housing before the semester started because of renovation delays to some of its student housing. Atlanta University Center students pay up to $7,000 a semester for student housing, but a larger percentage of those students borrow money to pay tuition and other fees. Even though we are doing this in solidarity with Howard, these are our issues, Clark Atlanta senior Aliva Duncan told the students. Many colleges and universities have, and let me highlight this because this is important. Many colleges and universities have decades old dorms that are in need of renovation. One recent analysis found that schools spend about $37 billion annually to operate and maintain buildings, but there's a $112.3 billion maintenance backlog. The study was done by the company Gordian and APPA Leadership Educational Facilities in an association that represent more than 1,300 colleges and universities worldwide. APPA has called for more federal funding for aging facilities and HVAC upgrades. Experts say the problems are even greater at HBCUs. Wow. Then it goes on to say that Spelman College President Mary Smith Campbell has talked about the need for more resident halls. Clark Atlanta listed building maintenance in its 2018 to 2023 strategic plan, and officials there have said the university does not have enough on-campus housing to meet student demand. The Atlanta schools have historically received less money from philanthropists and foundations. Donations have increased in the last year, but much of the money has been directed towards student scholarships. So it goes on to say students said they have heard some interest. Excuse me. Students says they've heard some interest from administrators at the schools to address their concern. By nightfall, they pitch tents and some prepared to sleep on a lot near the Atlanta University Center Robert W. Woodruff Library. Okay, so I believe that is this it. Yeah, this is it. I think that's all. But this comes from the Atlanta Journal Constitution. Okay. So as we can see, our people they have to beg the government to really listen and hear their problems. So you're telling me that our people got to beg and plead every year to get funding when they should have to. This is why the $45 billion is needed. This is why $45 billion is needed because of the crisis, because of the dilapidated building, because of bad air conditioning, because of rodent and rats and roaches and mold. This is why they need $45 billion. They don't just need it just to need it. They're not saying it just to be saying it. But it's just quite strange that these colleges are the only ones that have to go to every president to get funding. While these other universities, even the ones that are private, they don't have to go because they would get the funding right away. They would get federal funding. They would get the support from the states. I just don't understand. Well, yes, I do. Let me stop lying. Let me stop lying to myself. I do understand. I know what it is. It's systemic racism. That's what it is. Systemic racism hasn't gone anywhere. It has dressed itself up. It has been decorated. So once you decorate it, you give away all these things that people want to hear, or show or reveal things that people want to see, but not really reveal things that's going on, or not telling people the actual truth. So now people are questioning the Biden administration, like, what the fuck is really going on? What are y'all really up to? What are y'all doing? And Kamala Harris, if you care so much about the black folk, where the hell your ass at? Where the hell is she at? What's she doing? Is she hiding? Is she hiding under the rock? Where is she at? Why she ain't saying that? Why she not addressing the problem? She was an alumni at Howard University. She should be the first one to put her foot down like, hey, we got something going on. What can we do? Shit, at least if you're not going to give $45 billion, at least give $30 billion. If you can't give $30 billion, at least $25 billion. I mean, this is what she should be doing. She should be putting her foot down and say, at least give $25 billion to the HBCUs, and then we'll figure out some other way to be able to help. Because $2 billion is not enough. It's not going to cut it. $2 billion is not going to cut it for 101 Black colleges that's still around to this day. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it at all. But again, this is systemic racism. This is systemic racism. But then people don't want to talk about critical race theory. But they say, well, we don't need to be talking about that. We don't need to be discussing about critical race theory. Why not? This is one of them. Why not talk about systemic racism? This is one of them. Non-HBCUs get federal funding every year, get support from the states. But when it comes to these colleges, they got to beg for it. They got to go up to the administrators and ask for this X, Y, amount, Z amount. They can't even get state support. And by the way, these are Democrats that's doing this. See, and it's funny that people can talk about the Republicans being racist, etc., but you can't talk about the Democrats being racist. Birds of a feather flocks together. Two peas in a pot. It's so funny. People don't want to talk about the liberals and Democrat being racist, but they want to talk about how the Republican, the conservatives, they are so racist. Y'all better pick a battle. Y'all better look at both sides of the parties and really pick a battle. Black people, y'all being hoodwinked. That's all I gotta say about that. You being hoodwinked. If you don't see that, then I don't know what to tell you. It seems like we're just too gullible. We're too gullible, and we don't want to be able to open our eyes to really see what's going on. You're being hoodwinked. You're being hoodwinked. Hopefully things will get better for these schools, and hopefully they will receive some type of funding, some type of support system, etc. I hope so, because they need it and it's necessary. You know, especially if we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter, one of the things that matter about Black life is education. One of the things that matter about life is education. So if you say our lives matters, make education matters to us. Because if education doesn't matter to you, then why should it matter to us and our people? Why? But anyways, y'all, that's all I gotta say for tonight. So thank you guys for tuning in, watching. Until then, I will connect with you all later. So this your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging out. With that being said, peace and power, elevation be to all of you, and y'all take it easy. All right. Thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing to the channel and sharing my channel. Take it easy.